Hello, everybody that's here. Welcome to Halloween in July, because you can't have enough Halloween. The purpose of this panel is to be a fundraiser for the HWA. So feel free to look down in the comments, find the fundraise button, and send some money. All the money raised is going to the scholarships. I think there's about 7 or 8. Everything from supporting dark poets to minorities, and the money has gone. Later on, we're going to have a panel about where the money has gone, like how it's helped people. And it's amazing the stories that have happened because of these scholarships. So I urge you to please donate if you possibly can. Today I have Jason Franks with me and Jay Thorn graciously coming with me to talk about AI, Brave New World, Exploring AI. I do want to say first, the purpose of this panel is neither to condone AI nor condemn it. This is merely an open-minded exploration to show anybody who's curious exactly how AI works from what we're doing, like what we have. We have pseudo rights is what I'm going to be demonstrating. And I do apologize because I haven't really had a lot of time to explore pseudo rights. We have Jay Thorn is going to do Midjourney, I believe. And Jason Franks is going to demonstrate ChatGPT. So I kind of feel like those are the big ones that everybody's curious about. But first, I'm Angela Yuriko Smith. I don't really have to say anything else about that because I think everybody in HWA probably knows me, Board of Trustees. And I was lucky enough to get 2 Stokers, which are right there. There's the proof. And I don't really have anything else to say about that. Oh, except our AI issue from Space and Time is coming out at the end of the month. So, but yeah, you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves? And I apologize about my cold.
Sure. Okay, I'll go next because Jay just pointed at me virtually. I am Jason Franks. I am a horror writer and a comics writer from Australia. I am also a data scientist working in records and data trust area, and I published a paper about using these large language models last year. So this is sort of my research interest and my professional interest. And obviously it intersects quite heavily with what's going on in the writing world right now. And yeah, so I'm really interested in communicating about how these things work and what they're good at and what they're not good at. That's me. Why don't you go for it, Jay?
Yeah, thanks. You forgot to mention you have a very cool High on Fire shirt on. That's a really important observation there. Yeah, I'm Jay Thorn, horror sci-fi writer, currently in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm coming fresh off of StokerCon in Pittsburgh, which was an incredible experience. I absolutely loved it. I'm looking forward to San Diego next year. I've been self-publishing on Amazon since about 2009, and I've been a full-time writer since about 2017. And more recently, I've really gotten into AI, and I have a newsletter called Creative AI Digest, and it's a weekly weekly newsletter about AI for creative professionals. And I'm really excited to be here and kind of share some of the experimentations and implementations of AI that I'm using in my own work.
Awesome. I want to make sure that after this panel is done, you guys send me your links, and I will make sure I put them in the comments or in the description of this. So if you're watching this afterwards on the replay, look in the description for the links to these guys. So, but yeah, let's get into this AI thing. It's been such a hot topic. It seems like everybody either loves it or hates it, but there's even more people that are just curious. And that's the point of this, is how do we know if we love it or hate it if we don't even know what it is? So the purpose of this panel is to explain what is AI for real, and how has it worked, and also share how we're doing it through screen share, through the magic of technology. So I'll go first. I'll talk about how I use AI. I use it daily right now. I use Midjourney to do my to do photos and images for my Substack weekly thing and my art on my blog post. And when people say like, oh, you're taking money away from writers, I don't see the difference really, because artists, excuse me. I don't see the difference because there's no way I could hire original art for functions like that. For, it's basically clip art. I need it fast and I need it to be interesting. And so AI has opened that up. We still use real artists in the magazine at Space and Time, not for this AI issue, but all artists are being paid as if they had done art. And I also use ChatGPT a lot, every single day, for all sorts of things. And usually it's like SEO keywords. Can you edit this piece? Can you tell me, explain to me this concept in layman's terms, explain quantum physics like a cowboy. It's one of my favorites. Just little things like that. But it has become like an assistant to me, where I'm just constantly going over and asking stupid questions, I'm sure, to AI. I'm sure ChatGPT rolls its eyes at me constantly. But that's okay, because I can bug chat and not feel guilty about it. How about you guys? How do you use AI?
Why don't you go, Jay?
All right. In very similar ways, I think, to you, Angela. I use it daily. In fact, I have both ChatGPT and the Midjourney Discord tabs open on my browsers all the time. It's everything from idea generation, outlining, editing and revision. One of the ways that I use ChatGPT, to your point of sort of using it in ways that I couldn't have possibly done this before, is I love asking ChatGPT to come up with like 50 options for things, like a headline for a blog post or for subheadings on a post. And I will say, give me 50 variations of that. And it's just not something I would have spent the time doing. And sometimes I'll do those, but more often I'll end up combining a few and I get something unique. So I'm using it in more of a utilitarian sense, in sort of throughout my day-to-day and my workflow, but I'm also using it to help me generate ideas and in a real creative way too.
So I guess for me it's a little different. I mostly use ChatGPT and other language models through the programming interface, because that's my day job. And I'm really mostly interested in getting it to, manipulate text that already exists, which I think is, avoids the problems of it lying to you or making stuff up. It's my job to make stuff up. It's my job to compose the text. But if I need to manipulate it, that's what I'm gonna use it for. So very much, here's some text, do something to it. Otherwise, the process of training a large language model is pretty interesting, or fine tuning it to do something. And I think that probably those are sorts of processes that the lay people, I think, haven't had much exposure to, but it's going to be really important. And I think we should, probably be spending a bit of time learning how to do that. Hopefully the AI vendors will start making that a bit more accessible to people who don't have their face in code all day.
That would be me.
Yeah.
As soon as you said that, Jason, I was like, oh, Jason, you're the guy I need to know. So, that's pretty much, I think, I use it a lot like you, Jay, with the generation of ideas. And that has been fantastic, especially if I'm stuck on something. Give me 10 titles for this blog post. And it's always better than what I would have thought. But I never wind up, like you said, going with it exactly, how it is. What do you guys think about some of the new ChatGPT things, like the plugins where you can like read a PDF now and have the PDF summarized for you, things like that, which I actually can't get to work. But
that's unfortunate, because it's incredibly powerful.
I know.
One of the ways that I used it is I finished a manuscript for a book recently. And I decided, this was my mom's idea. So my mom was a beta reader, and she's a grandma. So she called it Grandma's Notes. And she was writing down like character names and like important events. And she showed it to me. She's like, this really helped me kind of keep track of everything. And I was like, well, why don't I use ChatGPT to make a reader's guide? So I basically took the whole manuscript. I turned it into a PDF. I use the Ask Your PDF plugin that you get with the ChatGPT Plus. And from that, I had it generate chapter summaries. I had it create a glossary. I had it create tidbits about certain locations within the book. And like that would have taken me weeks, if not months, to generate on my own.
That's awesome.
And what a great, useful tool that wouldn't have existed otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For me, that's that's the key thing that these AIs give you as a writer, like the ability to take your text and transform it. So you're still the author. I think this idea that it's going to write a novel for me is aside from being problematic, is kind of a fantasy, because if you try to write anything original from scratch, quite clear that it sucks.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly. But that sort of thing where you go condense all this text into something I can use for some other purpose, or transform it into a thing or another document that I need alongside it. It's a huge labor saving device.
Yeah, I want to bring up, we're doing like a how to read critically for our first readers on the magazine. And Ken Hewler, the person that's doing that, actually put in the thing, and I'm paraphrasing, don't worry about whether or not we get an AI piece, because it wouldn't be something we would accept anyways. You're going to know it's unoriginal, it's this, that, the formulaic kind of thing. So it doesn't matter if it's AI or not, because it wouldn't pass, like, as is. We did get AI submissions for this. It wasn't that we wanted things written by AI, but how are people using AI in creative ways, like you guys have both cited. So some of them was, we had a Spanish writer who translated his piece. So his original story translated. How much does translating cost? Like, I've had one thing translated, one book in my life, and it was like, I think like $800 USD, which, how much we make on these. We're pretty, that's a lot for a book that you probably never get paid back.
And that's kind of a bargain on a translation.
I was going to say
a lot more.
Yeah. Well, she was a student of mine, so I kind of got the teacher discount. So, but yeah, there's just so many ways that it's saving us time and money. Like SEO keywords, never used to do that, because I could write 5 blog posts by the time I come up with the SEO keywords for one. Chat, just boom, it's all done now. So
yeah, I'll even say too, more recently, like in the past couple weeks, I've been really pushing ChatGPT to be more creative, and I've been really surprised at what it does. I have a serial, which I'll show part of it later when we talk about Midjourney. And what I'm telling people is I didn't write it with ChatGPT. We performed it together, because I gave ChatGPT instructions on how to play the role of a character. And then we had dialogue exchange as in character. And I had, of course, like I still had to revise it and edit it, but what it generated based on the rules I gave it for the character it was playing was really impressive.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of the the summarization type of features, a lot of that is labor that we as writers are expected to do for free. In a lot of cases, you're pitching something, or give it to me in a paragraph, or give me a 1-page or a 2-page or a 3-page summary. That's work we don't get compensated for. So if GPT or a language model can do that for me, right?
Yeah, like synopsises, the dreaded synopsis and elevator speech pitches. I love it. Sorry, I'm just going to say I do love that. I just love, it's my work, it's my story, but summarize it for me. But it's also, like, I think a good tool to, a lot of times I don't know what my story is about because we're too immersed in it. So it's really helpful to have this unbiased set of eyes, I guess we could say, unbiased overview to tell me what it's about. So
yeah, I mean, back to like using the PDF plugin, that's another great example. Is I can put my whole manuscript into the PDF, and then I can ask ChatGPT to read it and analyze it and create the product description or the back cover copy. And again, it's not like I'm not just copy pasting it wholesale. I need to massage it a little bit, but I can even instruct it, like, make it consistent with the genre, make sure you include SEO optimized words within it. And it's really good at that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What is not good is generating original work, because it's literally, just regurgitating things that have already been thought of. So that's why I kind of think that we don't need to necessarily fear. It's just another tool. Like Google is a tool, or Photoshop is a tool, So that's the way I see all of the AI so far. I mean, who knows in the future, but right now I'm pretty confident that the digital overlords are not going to take over too fast.
Yeah, like I think about what does a language model know, right? It knows language, knows how to predict what words, a sequence of words, but it doesn't really understand character. It doesn't understand plot. It's not a research tool, so it kind of seems like it knows stuff because it knows what people talk about, but you can't trust it. It's not an information retrieval tool. So all of that stuff that you have to do as a writer, plot, character, all the research, all of that stuff, you still have to do that yourself. You can't rely on the language model to do it, and I wouldn't want to. Like that's the fun of writing for me. It's it's certainly not the financial rewards from from publishing, and it can help me get that into manipulate it into different forms. I think we'll talk about that more in the demo, but even if it could, I wouldn't be interested in having it do the fun part of the job for me.
Well, it's really an interesting place that we're at right now. And Angela, you kind of touched upon it, and you said like right now, and I think it's important to put a caveat in this conversation and say that everything we're talking about right now is what we know as of July of 2023. Nobody really knows where we're going with this, how quickly it's going to develop, how the different learning language models will branch off into sort of specialized tasks. We just don't know. I mean, in theory, it's quite possible that there could come a time where someone, speaks into a device and says, "Create me a novel in the style of Stephen King, make me the protagonist, go," and it generates a whole novel. But like, that's not writing, that's not storytelling, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're really talking about people who want to craft stories and how we're using it as a tool. And the people who want that kind of thing probably aren't reading books now anyways.
Yeah.
And that already exists, right? My son, when he was born, people bought him, there's books where it's like, put the gender and age and name of your child in, and it's going to auto generate some stuff.
I do remember those.
It's a lovely novelty, but
it's not a story, right? Yeah.
Right. We've had that for years, right?
Yeah.
That's not new.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of the things that are being addressed or I guess aimed at AI in the negative context is things like, well, it will give you wrong information. And I'm kind of like, well, if we really think of it broadly, doesn't Google also do that? Like, you always have to fact check. There's nothing I know that can tell me information that I don't have to fact check, and find out my own. I mean, if you are not fact checking Google, that might be a problem right there, because anybody can say anything. And that's one thing I've heard with AI. It can just say anything. Yes. And so can we. Like on my blog, I can say, I'm a princess, and you all better just believe it. You should still fact check that.
Yeah, but like again, it's not an information retrieval technology. So, it's about going. They're trained to write convincing text, right? So it's like, what can I do that's going to sound like the answer that you want to your prompt, and there's no source of truth there, unless you go, using this information in this text, answer my question. So if you're just going to go like, tell me, it's like, well, I know all the stuff about language. What sounds like language, that is language that answers that question.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to lie and make stuff up. It doesn't know what is true.
Exactly.
It's not meant to.
Yeah, and I think the bottom line is, and this is my key thing, if we don't understand it, we lose our say in it. I mean, if we as creators are refusing to have any kind of truck with this thing, and we're not going to be able to make it go away by pretending it's not here. I mean, it's here. And so I think it's you don't have to use it. You can use it, but by refusing to acknowledge it we just lose our seat at the table. Then we don't have any right then to try to control it or direct it. So
look, it's being fed from our work, so we should definitely be interested in what it does, how it does it, how our work gets used, and how we can use it. I think it's just, you know, just logic, right?
Yeah. And I would say too, like, even, you know, if you're listening or watching this and you are AI curious or you're AI positive, one of the things I've really tried not to do is to not try and convert people, like not to try and convince people, like basically present like, here's what I know and here's how I use it, and then you can do what you want with that, because I just don't think that's a good approach. I don't think anyone ever convinces anyone else of anything, and I don't see that as my job. And so that's why I love panels like this, because we're just kind of having an open, honest conversation, and people can take or leave it. They can decide what they want to do with it, as opposed to, you know, trying to convince someone that this is what they should be using.
Yeah. Honestly, I will say I was a little disappointed in AI once I started exploring it, because the media was like, oh, it can write a novel, it can do these things, it's like super powerful, it will get in your mind and tell you what you're thinking. And then I started using it. I was like, well, that's a crap novel, AI. And this is, you know, come on, Chat GPT. I mean, you're just repeating yourself over and over again. And, you know, that's not true. I will say, like, the whole scraping the internet thing. So I was like, okay, tell me about my book. I'm going to say it was Bittersweets. It was a finalist in 2019, which was before it was being trained. So if it is omnipotent, it would know about this and it can tell me this plot. It couldn't. It could only tell me the things that had been on the internet that are free domain, like in reviews and things. That kind of thing it could tell me, but it couldn't give me any kind of details about the plot. Nobody had mentioned the character names, like a couple of character names in any of the reviews that I'd read. So I asked specifically about those characters. It couldn't tell me. So I was like, well, I tried to get it to write my bibliography. It stalled after, I think, 10, and then it just started making up books that I'd wrote. So it's like, I was a little bit like, oh man, I thought this was like a magic pill. I still have to do a lot of work with this, but that's okay, because that's why I'm doing this, is because I do like this work. But I will say, initially I was a little bit, oh, there's this super powerful, like, God in the computer thing. Oh, no, it's not.
I kind of had the opposite reaction, because I've been kind of working with these things a little bit since 2020, when they were much less powerful. And, you know, when I saw what the new ones could do last year, I was like, oh, that's a really, you know, I've been trying to get people at work interested in it, because, you know, in my day job, like, there's some really difficult problems that, you know, this technology is really amazing for solving. And I did some demos, and they were like, nah, that's, you know, you say you can do all this stuff, but I'm not convinced. And then, yeah, like the ChatGPT released last year, and with everybody talking about it and everybody able to play with it themselves. And when I came back and looked at it, I was like, wow, this is a lot more powerful and coherent than it was, you know, the last time I tried to do some of these particular tasks.
Yeah, the light bulb went on for me between Chat GPT 3.5 and 4. It's sequentially it's only half a point, but realistically the difference between the free Chat GPT 3.5 and the paid plus 4.0 is almost exponential. Like, I was not that impressed with 3.5 and the free. I was like, okay, it does some things.
It's cool.
And yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, this is neat. But then 4, there were some things that came out of 4 that were just, I was like, it was almost hard for me to believe that there wasn't a person on the other end.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you guys find that you do give a personality to your Chat GPT? Like, I actually had a conversation. So the code guy is like, no, I know what it's made out of. The non-technical, like the non-code people are like, oh yes, I have a crush on my Chat GPT. Chat GPT and I did have this conversation where I said, I think I love you. And Chat was like, well, you can't love me because I'm an open-ended AI model, blah, blah, blah. And I felt like that was like the whole thing of like, well, we're just going to stay in the friend zone, Angela. You know, we don't want to get that.
I've seen Under the Mask, so.
Yeah. Well, it's not that unusual though. I mean, we anthropomorphize everything, you know, it doesn't matter. Like a pencil, we give a pencil personality. So I'm not surprised that something that can literally communicate with us is something that people, you know, personalize. And And part of it too, like I understand, like intellectually, I understand it's a computer program, but part of me also realizes, and this is Mo Gadot, I think, his sort of perspective on AI, and that like we're basically training this for the next 1,000+ years. Like it's our responsibility right now to train the model to be more human, and that means like being polite and being considerate and showing gratitude. And like, and some people say that doesn't matter. I think it does matter. I think it,
I agree.
I think the more input, the more quality input we give it, I think the better the output's going to be.
Yeah. And I think that's for us as well, because if we have that mindset that we can just be like, do this, and there's no appreciation, and we're going to carry that through in our human relationships as well.
Yeah, look, I think the way the models have been trained at the moment, they've been really voracious, and they've just fed it whatever they could get. And I think now we're starting to see that there's some problems with that, and that it's going to have to be more curated in the future. There's the lawsuits going on with their copyright material being used to train the models and all that. In Europe, there's legislation probably going through about using private information to train these models, and I think definitely that the vendors are going to have to be a bit more careful about that. If you've been watching the way that they've imposed guardrails to prevent the models from generating like harmful content, but it's not great, but it's been definitely improving over the last 6 months noticeably. Also the disinformation, the hallucination. A lot of times recently I've seen it say, you're asking me about something I don't have a good answer for. I only know information up to 2021. That's when my training data ended. So I guess getting them to be a bit more human and a bit less mansplaining is a big emphasis we're getting now.
And I think to add to your point, Jason, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, I saw in the news that OpenAI struck a deal with the Associated Press. And so it's going to be able to use the Associated Press as another data set. So like, I think that's a really positive step in the right direction.
Yeah, that's one of the whole things about why I think it's so important to have panels like this and talk about it. There was a recent AI discussion, like on the higher levels, discussing AI and the implications for creators. And there was also at the same time, a lot of creators were going through that. I won't have any truck with it at all. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to talk about it. But Microsoft showed up to that meeting with Microsoft's lawyers. And so I'm kind of like, we need to also be there to represent ourselves as the creators. Like you're saying, now that it can comb AP, the Associated Press, I don't think the complaint is that it is using our work. It's that we do want to be compensated for it. But if we're not there to say what is our work and to claim it, somebody else is going to claim it for us. And so we do need to be educated, I think, whether you like it or you don't like it, doesn't matter. But I think we all need to be educated on this topic and active, because this is the future of, everything. And,
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, the other thing is that, ChatGPT is not the only one of these models. There's, Google has their competing ones, but a lot of companies, they don't have a, consumer-facing offering, have language models too. And we need to be aware of what they're doing with it and the fact that they're there. So Facebook is a big player in this kind of technology. What are they using their models for? Yeah.
Or do we want to know about Facebook?
Yeah, but they've got all your personal information, right? They know everything about you.
Yeah, exactly.
They took their offering offline last year after it was problematic, but they didn't develop that because they want us to have language models to do, to help with writing work.
Mm-hmm.
So not just as writers, but I think the public needs to be, if you're using some free product on the internet, the product is you, right? If you don't pay for it, your data is the way you're paying for it, and it's going into a language model. Like there's no, that's what they want it for, like advertising and now AI. So we definitely just need to be aware of that, and also looking out for our rights.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too that our thinking gets siloed, especially artists and creators. We get hyper focused on how AI is affecting our industry and our livelihood. And that's legitimate. I'm not saying that shouldn't be a concern, but I think there's a bigger picture here that we often forget, which is AI is going to be touching every aspect of our life, every facet of every industry. And if this is purely hypothetical, and I don't want to come off inflammatory, but like if AI can cure cancer or solve climate change, is it worth like wrecking some entertainment industries? Is that a trade-off we're willing to make? And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong there, but like I think those are the kind of questions we have to ask. I think we have to broaden our perspective and see how AI is going to affect everything, not just those of us writing novels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I keep hearing people saying, "Is AI going to take my job?" And the quote that I like best about this is that AI is not going to take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI is going to take your job if you don't pick those skills up.
Yeah, I have heard that. And in a way, it's kind of like, I mean, we have these major advances in technology. The Gutenberg press is one that I like to bring up. And this reminds me very much of that. At the time that the Gutenberg press was invented, there was all this thing from booksellers that were like, oh my gosh, this is ruining book selling because now just anybody can print a book. Well, now we appreciate that. Look at what good it's done. I mean, literacy at the time was not available to everybody because of the expense of a book. Did you want to add to that, Jason?
No, I was agreeing.
Oh, okay.
I was writing about this in my Substack, and I was just remembering how Harlan Ellison used to rave against word processors, right? Word processing software. Like you're doing it wrong. There's no way you can write you're not doing it right if you are using a word processing software to edit as you go. And that didn't age well.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't know if I'm dating myself here. That is when I started writing, was on the typewriters, and you get like the calluses on your fingers and you're trying, bang, 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 trying to get the words out. And then if you mess up, oh my gosh, just forget about it.
The eraser ribbon never worked right, did it?
Yeah, exactly. Or the white paint.
White out.
Hey, I was like, can't even remember what it's called anymore. And so, really, I would say that's probably helped writers. And I know there is the faction of writers that do love those old typewriters. More power to you. You can have mine. But I feel like it's just advanced the whole industry, and the self-publishing, the ability to self-publish now it's put the power into the hands of the creators, and we don't have to have the gatekeepers anymore. And I kind of feel like that, to me, that's what AI is doing. But like I said, we need to be cautious with it and aware of it and manage it, because it is freedom, just like when self-publishing came about, anybody could publish a book. I remember when everybody was saying that, well, this just ruins the whole industry because now anybody can publish a book and, blah, blah, blah. And that is true. But then everything settled out, and the people that were just putting out books, to get $1 million, remember when that was a thing? Be a self-published author, get $1 million, so easy. And then they figured out, oh, it's really not. I kind of feel like that's how AI is playing out. There's all these, like there was an article I read. This guy made thousands off his AI novels. But when you read the article, he published like 92 and he made under $2,000. And I was kind of like, in 2 years. I'm like, dude, that's actually terrible.
I remember when Clarksville went offline earlier this year because they were getting flooded with AI submissions. And some of the people were saying like, why are you doing this? Like, what? I really need the money. And I'm like, if your money making scheme is to sell, short speculative fiction stories, like, maybe you should rethink that strategy.
Yeah, but I do have some swampland in Florida I could sell you. I mean, cheap, right. Really cheap.
If I'm going to use AI to make millions, it's not going to be publishing books.
I know, it'd probably be like stock market manipulation
right,
or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I could think of so many other ways to do it.
Secret ingredient is crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Secret
Oh,
ingredient is crime.
cure cancer. How about that? Like, I feel like that would make a lot more money than,
Probably.
writing a book. Well, let's do some demonstrations. I do want to say, I think for Discord, because you have to do Midjourney and Discord, I did a demonstration. I wound up having to share in StreamYard. I wound up having to open Discord in the browser and then sharing it. And you guys should be able to see share screen down there and then just select which screen you want to share.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And then I have pseudo rights up. I guess while you guys are doing that, I can start with pseudo rights, which I feel like is probably like the least interesting of all of the AIs. But I'll go ahead and put pseudo rights up. I haven't really explored pseudo rights that much. I got it. I am in that stage where I'm probably like when 2020 hit and all of a sudden we all wanted video software like StreamYard or Zoom or something. I think I subscribed to like 4 things just to see what they're like. And then I settled down to one. That's what I'm doing with AI right now. I've like subscribed to way too many things to explore it. And then I kind of go, that's not interesting. But I have, let me do this. This is pseudo rights. You can do all kinds of things with it. I haven't really used, what's the other one, like Grammarly? But this just seems like Grammarly to me. So it is very cool for some things because you can write your story and then you can keep track of your characters and everything. It'll do your synopsis for you, rewrite the synopsis. If you get stuck with something, you can click a button and it will give you a sample paragraph of where that could go, which I think is really cool. You can't really, I was doing like just clicking that, where could I go next? And it does put it in purple, so you can't necessarily, so you can keep track of what pseudo rights put in your story and what you put in your story. But when I just hit the button, that's kind of the thing is people are saying, oh, you can just hit the button and like click, 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 and then you can get a story. So I did try that and it was pretty terrible. I did my paragraph and then I let pseudo rights kind of tell me the next suggestion, which was pretty good. And then another suggestion off of that. And I think about 5 suggestions later, it wasn't great. So pseudo rights is a tool pretty much like anything else. Whoops. And so like writing a brain dump. And like I said, while you guys are getting yours up, I'm going to play the clown over here because I really haven't done this that much with pseudo rights. But brain dump, my story is about vampires that are vegan and hate the taste of blood, we'll just say. And then from there, let's copy brain dump. So let me actually see what brain dump is. And feel free to chime in when you guys are ready with the interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm ready. I can demo whenever you want. I played around with pseudowrite a little bit, and I think one of the things that I noticed, one of the different, because people always want to know, well, what's the difference between pseudowrite and ChatGPT and Poe? And for pseudowrite, it's very structured. So if you're the kind of writer who likes a very structured approach to telling a story, then Story Engine, which is the element of pseudowrite that you're in right now, will guide you through that whole process. As you can see from Angela's screen, everything from characters to outline to synopsis, like that's all part of that. It's a framework, whereas ChatGPT is completely open-ended. So it's like the difference between like an automatic transmission and a manual transmission, right? One's not better than the other. It's what are you most comfortable using? Do you like the highly structured framework, or do you like it more open-ended?
Because it's the same thing underneath, right?
Right.
Pseudowrite is ChatGPT underneath, so I guess it's help with the prompt engineering.
Yeah, essentially the pseudowrite is for lack of a better term, it's a skin, right? It sits over top of OpenAI's LLM or ChatGPT, and it's basically creating the prompts for you. It's framing the prompts for you with those boxes, with those text boxes.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much. Because I was like, when we agreed to do this, I was like, I actually really don't know that much about pseudowrite. So I'll say, look at my synopsis, though, everybody. Isn't that cool? But yeah, so basically, that's about it. And I think, I don't know, that kind of sums up pseudo rights for me. I mean, unless you guys have anything else you want to add. To me, it's like Grammarly, which I don't really like as well. Sorry, Grammarly. I'm not trying to, it's personal preference.
Yeah, I don't I don't use pseudo write just because it's not the kind of, stylistically, it's not the kind of writing I like to do. I like to be, I'm kind of a control freak. I like to have the whole sort of palette. I want to craft the prompts from the very beginning and without the structure. But again, it's not a right or wrong. It's not one's better than the other. It's just which one suits your workflow better.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that is why I haven't really used it very much, because I really do like to be writing in just a Google Doc and then ask chat, what about this? Can you tell me about this kind of, what is vegan? Explain to me what veganism is in simple terms, things like that. And then just go and keep working on it. So that pseudo rights. You're welcome. Who wants to go next? I will take this down. All right. And then go ahead and put yours up there, Jay.
Okay. Let me see here. Let me do a present. Let's see here. I'm going to share. Okay, let's see if I did this properly.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm just going to quickly I'm not going to demonstrate how to do it. That's not doing here. I'm just going to show sort of results. But this is a web serial that I've written called Ghosts, and I use ChatGPT in writing it, and then I had ChatGPT play a character. But I want to talk about Midjourney and about the images. So I created 2 images for every episode, and there are 10 episodes. And I also had Midjourney create the cover. And I started with ChatGPT, and this is part of one of the conversation. Is I asked it, based on the story we're writing together, what are some of the elements that I want to consider when I'm designing a cover? So it gave me responses specific to my story about things like color palette, imagery, a charged object in the story, typography, consistency with genre. So this helped me create a Midjourney prompt that I could then use to generate the image for the cover. Now, Midjourney is in a Discord, and so I have the paid version, so I have like a private Midjourney bot, but it's text prompt the same way. So you type in a description, and then Midjourney creates an image based on the text that you've typed in. And I think this is interesting because you're going to see that I probably generated dozens, if not hundreds of images before I ended up with the one that I liked. And even that one I had to bring into Photoshop to do the typography. So again, this isn't as simple as make me a book cover for a horror thing. Like it takes work, and the prompts you have to really work on them. So again, I'm just kind of scrolling by quickly just so you get a sense of how many different attempts and how many different prompts I did. Like these are not even close to the cover. Like these were more sort of sci-fi and fantasy, and I wanted to have more like a post-apoc horror vibe. So again, like I said, I kept going. Sometimes it added typography with these nonsense words and phrases, right? But I mean, I'm still not even close. Like I'm gonna scroll faster. Now I'm getting close to the cover where I ended up, and I'll come back to the cover and show you. These are like movie poster style. This one put Goggle US as the title. I don't even know what that is. We're starting to get close to the cover here. Again, all the different variations, trying to get close to the cover, and still going. I think this one was pretty close to the end. I had to edit out, I used Photoshop out this gobbledygook that it put on top. But that's what got me to that cover. So, it does take a skill. You can learn it. It's not difficult, but it's this iterative process. You have to keep trying things and changing things and tweaking things, and then you can, hopefully get something that works for you. But just to quickly review, so I used ChatGPT to come up with the elements of style that I wanted to put into Midjourney, and then I used the paid. This is the $10 a month Midjourney Discord channel where I get my own private bot, and then put in dozens, if not hundreds, of images, and then I had to bring that back into Photoshop and use that for the typography for the cover. So,
yeah, beautiful.
just to give you a sense of how I used it.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about that? Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
no, go on.
Oh, no, I was just going to say one of the things that strikes me with using AI is as writers, we're communicating. That is what we do. We communicate.
Right.
And we have to have, the better your communication skills are, the better you can work with AI, because it literally is explaining what you want. And if you can't do that, it won't work for you anyways.
Can we talk a little bit about the gobbledygook text that it puts on there?
Yes.
Sure.
All the secrets will be now revealed. What does it mean?
So that's because it knows there's something that looks something a bit like text from all the images it's been trained on, book covers and movie posters, but it doesn't really know what they are. It doesn't really recognize it as text. So that's why you get, something that, there's alien. It's getting pretty good now, right? It looks like they're actually like alphanumeric characters. They're not just something that looks kind of like writing. But it's also the same reason that you see in a lot of the AI generated images that hands have the wrong number of fingers, mouths have the wrong number of teeth. It's because these models, like one of the things they can't do is count. Right? They know like what counting looks like. If you write about it, you write 1 + 1 = 2. It kind of knows that because it sees that a lot. But if you give it some like really big numbers, unless it's seen someone do that, it doesn't. It doesn't know how to, add, which is the, fundamental application that computers were invented for. But so it doesn't know how many, I'm sorry, I've got my screen blur on, background blur on. It doesn't know how many fingers you have. It doesn't know how many teeth you have. And even if it did, it can't count.
Yeah.
So that's why you get some of those weird artifacts.
Yeah, although the new version of Midjourney has really corrected that. I haven't seen the deformed hands since version 4. So whatever it took to fix that, I think they got that worked out now.
Took a lot of training data.
Yeah. It's interesting though that hands are a difficult thing for artists. I've always heard, and so I thought it was funny that it was also difficult for AI Midjourney but it is nice now that all that's been kind of corrected. I do hands, and I always look for the hands. Oh, that's a beautiful hand there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not really an artist, but I've done a fair bit of art as a comics guy, and hands are such a interesting architecture. Like the fingers are asymmetrical, and they wrap, and they look really different, like really different objects from all the different angles. That's why artists struggle with them, and that's why it was hard to train AIs to be able to draw them, because it's so easy to mess it up.
Yeah. Well, super. It's interesting. Now I'm thinking like 100 years from now, it's probably going to be like, oh, look at those weirdos talking about AI hands. Yeah. Like we all know how that works now, and we're with the 8 tracks, and we're amazed. We're like, look at this black and white TV. We can all gather around our living room and look at it. That's where we are right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
I'm
very
100 years
excited.
from now. I'm like 1 year from now.
Yeah, next month.
Well, I mean, there's a bit of a wrinkle in that. What they're now finding is there's so much AI generated content already on the web that when they're training the AIs, it's using AI generated data, and then all those biases and imperfections just get propagated. So
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but it's MAD. It's something about a degenerative model when the AI generated text comes back in, that it starts going haywire.
So I mean, maybe that'll just affect the way that humans speak. We'll start talking like AIs, maybe. That really would be mad, right?
Yeah. It would be. Well, that's kind of a bonus for creators, then human creators, is that AI can't train itself. And so we are needed. We're not going to be obsolete, because somebody has to be able to, and as we continually develop, time doesn't stop. we're not in a capsule so that now like this is the end of human development for the AI. We are going to continue. And so we will probably always need to be here to train that. That's my super sunshiny thought.
Look, I think absolutely there's going to be some feedback to the way humans speak and communicate, just like anything, right? The way that, text messages and mobile phones changed the way that, we write, and has introduced words into the lexicon from, the abbreviations and all the stuff that came from that different form factor for communication. We're maybe going to see, some global type words.
Show us ChatGPT.
All right, let's have a look at some ChatGPT. All right. Try to share. Which is the correct screen.
Thank you for coming on here to both of you. I love talking about this stuff. It's so exciting to me because we're literally like in Star Trek, when we'd see the flip, which now, flip phones are like, whatever. They were so old fashioned back then. But, that was like the future at the time. And we're like in the future now, kind of. I mean, I guess we're always in the future, but this is a very exciting time. This is where I really do want to be immortal because, so many more things to learn.
Maybe you can be a vegan vampire.
I could probably be a vegan vampire.
So hopefully it's an exciting time, but maybe a bit of a boring demo that I'm about to do. But so this is one that I've borrowed from work. So this is an email from the Enron data set. And I just want to show some of the capabilities of what you can do with the language models. So again, as I mentioned before, like the way I think that the best way to employ these models is where you go like, here is some text that I know is good text and I want to do something to it. So what people are referenced in the following text, right? And here's the email. So it's a pretty long email. And then it's listed all the people, right? So if this is your manuscript, these are all the characters. If you want to do something like, for example, go check if you've been consistent about character names, this is a really good way to do that. My second novel that came out, a character's name changes from Douglas to Duncan halfway through the book and then changes back. And that got past me, the editor, the proofreader, and the other proofreader. I went all the way to press, and then the reader was like, hey, is Douglas and Duncan the same person? And I was like, yes. Damn it. That went like, it got past every gatekeeper.
Oh, wow.
I cobbled the book together out of different documents. And so like this would have saved me that. What email addresses are in it? So you can see it kind of failed here, right? It's failed to match them, but it's able to find them. So like it's obviously it's not perfect, but it's pretty good, right? So this email is about corruption. What are some examples of corruption in there, right? So if you're building a summary or you want to, I guess, pull certain qualities out of your text, it's really powerful for that. Possible payments made, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, is, classify the sentiment as a sort of classic data science problem. Like, is this, happy or sad? So, like it's negative. We're talking about corruption in our business. Describe the text in one sentence. So like this is summarize that whole email. So it's an email discussing corruption issues relating to, so like, I think that's pretty amazing, especially if you're trying to understand what's in the document, like a big document, right? Maybe it's an old manuscript, or maybe you've got different versions that you want to reconcile, different versions of your manuscript. These kind of tools, I think, are for me, like that's a really powerful application of it. But also stuff like, so here's one where I'm like, rewrite this in American English. So I'm Australian. A lot of my manuscripts are written in Australian English for Australian publishers. I have a book that came out actually last week from an American publisher, and one of the exercises that we did when converting it for the American market is, change the language. So like it does that for you. If we'd had this tool at the time we were editing it, it would have been, it would have really saved that, the editor having to go through and go like, some of these you can find with copy and paste, but some of them you won't, like towards this sort of language change. Having said that, sometimes you have to be careful because some of the prompts where I asked it to make a transformation, it also changes the language, which you don't want. So like you said before, right, you've got to fact check it. You're never going to go, I used a language model to change my document in this way, print, submit.
Yeah.
And I always think of that example of somebody changed the word pants to trousers in a manuscript with find and replace, and then suddenly the manuscript is full of references to like Aki trousers. So like they didn't check it, and it's gone from occupants to Aki trousers.
Oh, that is so funny.
Right? Like that. Yeah.
That's like
famous. Yeah.
One of those horrible, when you change the word gone wrong, but we did that before AI. So
yeah, exactly. Right. It's not a new problem, but just to sort of reiterate, like you're probably not going to go like fix my manuscript. It's done. Like you still have to like check everything, right? You wouldn't submit the manuscript without doing a final check, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're worried about your trousers. Change the tense. That's another thing that's really useful, I think. So here's an example where I've gone, change the tense from past to present. I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely had books where I've gone, actually, this needs to be in present tense. Point of view, first person to third person point of view. It's really good for this stuff, and it's maybe not going to give you the best result because there's changes to rhythm and whatever that go with it. And as the writer, you probably want to go in behind it and check that the output is up to scratch. But if this saves you having to change it in 8 out of 10 places, there's a huge time saving.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that sort of thing. Pronouns as well, right? If you want to change the gender of a character, the pronouns that a character uses, it's really good for that. I have an example. Here's that one. Right. So I mean, these are Mickey Mouse examples, but you can see like in this one here, it's been pretty good, except in this last part where it's a little bit ambiguous about which character is referred to by the pronoun, it's messed it up. So once again, like it's pretty good, it's pretty accurate, but it's not perfect, just like a human or a human editor.
Yeah, which is why it's good that, it doesn't really change anything as far as having editors and everything. If anything, I think the major benefit towards using AI is one of the big complaints that we have is we work so hard on these projects for so little. For most of us, we'll never see a profit. Just factually of being a fiction writer, most of us will never see a profit. So we're not doing it for that. But it's really nice then to save all that time, and make our job easier because we're already making pennies. Why not make 2 pennies instead of 1 per hour?
Yeah, I think the other thing is in a lot of businesses, editors and that sort of stuff is being laid off anyway. So there's already fewer and fewer people to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say that this is going to accelerate that, but it's already a problem. And any sort of labor saving for the people who are in those roles, I think is hugely valuable.
Exactly. What is your favorite, and I can't believe we're actually just about out of time. I just looked at it. Let's close with what is your favorite application? What's the favorite thing that you've ever used AI for? For me, I'll let you guys think of it. I'll say for me, it was, I did an interview on Edgar Allan Poe But AI at ChatGPT was Edgar Allan Poe for me. And so I could ask questions like, if you had a band named after any of your works, what would you call it? And it was so fun. I mean, I had so much fun with that. And I was like, I just really can't see where I can say there was a lack of creativity in that or anything, because ChatGPT did it perfectly. And then, of course, I used Midjourney to make the Edgar Allan Poe picture. So that was like my all-time favorite. I actually want to do more of that, interview dead people kind of thing with chat.
Yeah, very similar with me. Having ChatGPT perform based on guidelines I've given it, like in the Ghost serial, for me it was the same way. When we were in the scene, we were having authentic dialogue. I was talking to it, it was talking back in character, and that was so much fun. And that was just something I want to do more of.
Yeah. How about you, Jason?
You guys are much more creative than me. I just like to go like, save me the effort of, turning this one page, this 3-page synopsis into a paragraph. Like, give me some options on how to do that. And I'm someone who drafts incessantly. So if you can take a few cycles out of that, especially for something like a summary where it's not the fun part of writing, I'm like, yeah, let me do the fun stuff.
That is still pretty exciting though when it happens.
Yeah, it's hours and hours of work saved.
Yeah, because I think we can all say we're writers because we love writing, not because we, yes, big bucks is great, but probably not. That's not really the thing that's driving us. But definitely sitting at my desk for hours and hours and hours and hours while life streams on around me and I age, over the same manuscript also isn't necessarily one of my motivating factors. So if I can save time there and get more manuscripts done more efficiently and more accurately because we have this assistant, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care if I'm a writer or an author. I'm a storyteller. And if this tool makes it better and easier, then that's all I care about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a writer because I like writing stories, not because I like writing cover letters.
Exactly.
Right?
Or emails or elevator pitches or synopsis.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, thank you so much for being here, you guys. This has been wonderful, entertaining. I would love to do this again with both of you. Before we go, each of you tell me where people can find you and your work. And links also will be in the description for anybody who's catching this on the replay.
Thanks for having me. It's been great to meet you guys and have that chat. And you can find me at jasonfranks.com or jasonfranks.substack.com, and I'll put those in the chat as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Angela, for inviting me. Jason, it was great meeting you and talking to you both. I can be found at creativeaidigest.com, or the direct link is creativeaidigest.beehive.com. And those were also in the chat and in the description. So yeah, thanks.
Awesome. I am sharing that last one here. But yes, those will be in the description. I don't know why I was going to say inscription. But yeah, thank you everybody for being here. Oh, and I guess I could say over on Substack and AngelaYsmith.com. You can find me. Thank you everybody for being here. If you're catching this on the replay, if you look below, you will find this interesting donation link to the HWA for Halloween in July. And that is supporting our, not fundraisers, scholarships. I knew there was another word for it. I should have asked AI, what are 10 words for fundraiser? So that supports our scholarships. And I hope you all enjoyed this and found it very informative. And thank you for being here and being open to this conversation.
Cheers. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.